welcome to our next episode of the Hormone Café. Today we're going to talk about exercise and hormones and why your workout might be backfiring. So we want to go over what are some principles when we think about exercise and how to balance our hormones, and then some examples of ideal exercise. So if you're working out consistently and you're still struggling with your hormones, like you have irregular cycles, you're struggling with infertility, fatigue, we want to talk about why that is. So something is probably not right if you feel like you're working out a ton and you just feel like your metabolism is slow or you can't lose weight, or if you feel exhausted at the end of a workout, or if you are working out and your cycles are still irregular. So those are just red flags where maybe we need to tweak your workouts to make sure that they are in tune with the hormones of your body and what your body needs. And sometimes more exercise is not always better for hormone balance. So we want to find, what are your hormones doing? What's your cortisol doing? What is your insulin doing? What is your blood sugar doing? And then how can we exercise specifically to optimize that? So one thing that we need to remember is that exercise is a stress signal to the body. So it can be supportive because exercise does help us make oxytocin and serotonin, and it can help us, but it can also be disruptive. So we don't want to exercise in a way where our cortisol or our stress hormone is skyrocketing. So it's going to depend on the type of exercise that we do, the intensity, and the frequency. So what we want to think about when we exercise are three kind of hormone categories. So number one is cortisol. So too much high intensity exercise will increase our cortisol, and that could lead to chronic fatigue, sleep issues, and weight retention. Because sometimes people are working out really, really, really hard and their body is holding on to weight and they're like, I cannot lose any weight even though I'm working out really hard. That's because we're just working out too hard and we're actually stressing out our bodies. And when our bodies are stressed out and our cortisol is really high, we're in that fight or flight response, and then we're going to hold on to weight because our bodies only lose weight when we're relaxed and when we're nourished. Because sometimes our body doesn't know the difference between stress or a workout. So we want to work out in a way where we feel amazing at the end of the workout. We feel happy, like it did increase our oxytocin and our serotonin, but not that we just burned down all of our hormones and really increased our cortisol. So the second hormone that we pay attention to, or that combination of hormones, is our insulin and our blood sugar. So sometimes overtraining and underfueling can worsen our glucose control. For example, if you're wearing a glucose monitor and you're working out, your blood sugar should be completely flat. Sometimes people work out and their blood sugar actually goes up. And they say, oh my gosh, Dr. P, what the heck? Why is my blood sugar going up? I'm working out. It's supposed to be going down. But that's also a sign that your body is too stressed, because if you're working out and your blood sugar is going up, it means that your body is in ketosis, and it does something called gluconeogenesis, where your liver then starts making its own blood sugar because it's making its own fuel. So what you want to do is you really don't want to be doing fasted workouts. Like before you work out, you want to make sure that you're having a little bit of protein and then a little bit of a high quality carbohydrate. So if you're going to have a really, really, really intense workout, or you're going to work out for a really long period of time, you're going to need more calories before you work out. If you're not going to work out for that long, or it's not going to be that intense, then you need less calories or a smaller snack before you work out. So just make sure that you're fueling your workouts. Like you don't want to be doing fasted workouts. Another thing that you don't want to do is you don't want the opposite to happen, where your blood sugar just plummets and then you're crashing, because after a workout, you shouldn't feel starving like you want to eat something. You should feel totally full and satiated, because sometimes we think of having a post-workout drink, like, oh, we're going to have a protein shake for recovery after we work out, which is fine, but it's actually more important to have that before we work out. So in order to keep our insulin and our glucose optimized, we want to make sure that we are not working out so hard that we feel hangry at the end, that we feel satiated, and that we have some kind of a snack before we work out. And then that third category of hormones that we think of is our reproductive hormones. So our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and then our DHEA. because if we're over exercising and not getting enough calories, then it can inhibit our body's ability to make testosterone and estrogen, which will give us a lower quality ovulation or a late ovulation. And that can cause irregular cycles or something called hypothalamic amenorrhea, where the hormones in our brain are low, and that means the hormones in our ovaries, so our estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are low. So we want to be working out in a way that's fueling our estrogen and our testosterone production and not burning it out. So we don't want to be doing so much HIIT training that all of our hormones are getting to be really, really low. On the other hand, we don't want to be completely sedentary and do nothing, because you do need blood flow to your ovaries in order to make testosterone, in order to make estrogen. So we want to be working out enough that we're getting good blood flow to our ovaries, but not so much that we're burning off of our hormones. So the biggest mistake that women make is either being on either side of those spectrums, meaning they're doing too much high intensity exercise without having enough fuel, or they're doing nothing, which is really stagnating their hormone production, and it's not promoting proper insulin spikes so that we are decreasing our blood sugar levels. So for example, we don't want to be doing HIIT training every single day. We want to be spreading that throughout the week and then having days of rest and recovery. We don't want to be doing really long cardio sessions where we're working out for an hour or multiple hours at a time. We also don't want to be doing fasted workouts or having coffee and then working out. We have to fuel ourselves and then work out, because we want to make sure that we're keeping our cortisol optimized, our insulin and our blood sugar, and our reproductive hormones optimized. So let's look at what balanced exercise actually looks like. So this is just a general example. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more personalized to you. For example, if you're a person who has high testosterone and high progesterone, you're going to have to work out more and harder, and you're going to have to sweat in order to burn off your hormones. If your hormones are really low, you're just a low hormone profile, you have low progesterone, low estrogen, low testosterone, you're going to have to focus less on cardio and more on weight training and being gentle so you can rebuild your hormones without burning them off. So in general, what you want to do is you want to be doing strength training 2 to 3 times per week, and it only has to be for 20 to 30 minutes. So we want to make sure we're lifting some kind of weights. If we want to do weight bearing on our own, so more like Pilates, that's okay, or just literally lifting weights can be helpful, because that will help with our bone health. We want to keep our bones strong, and then it also helps with our insulin sensitivity and our testosterone production, because you really have to have muscle mass in order to improve your testosterone levels. So what that's going to look like, we're lifting weights 20 minutes a week, 2 or 3 times a week. And then one thing that's really underrated is just walking, especially if you're eating a meal where your blood sugar is going to spike, or you're eating a bunch of carbohydrates at once, or you're having a treat. If you go on a walk, your blood sugar will go down. You'll literally see it go down. So if you're eating a giant meal and you just have that feeling of like, blah, I feel kind of blah, I just want to go sit on the couch, like resist that urge and just go on a walk outside. In a perfect world, we would go on a walk or have some kind of movement literally after every single meal. So try to incorporate some kind of a walk into your day. Like after lunch, you go on a quick walk around the office. After dinner, you and your husband go on a walk together. If you have dogs, they're a great excuse to go on a walk. Like make sure you walk your dogs every single day. Ideally, you would do it within an hour of eating. So that will really help lower your blood sugar. And then walking also straightens out and evens out your cortisol levels. So it's really helpful just to go on a walk within an hour after eating. And then when we're thinking about high intensity working out, like if we're doing spit or HIIT or really intense CrossFit, you really want to do that like once or twice a week max. It's not something that you want to be doing every single day. And then you want to make sure you have recovery days. So the next day you want to be doing something low impact and gentle like yoga and stretching. So if you're going to do HIIT workouts, you just want to make sure that you build in 1 or 2 recovery days in between those types of workouts, because you want to focus on rebuilding and rejuvenating in those days. And then other things that we want to think about are It really helps to do just recovery days in general because it helps our parasympathetic nervous system. Like, we don't want to be working out really hard where our body's in fight or flight. We want to be feeling safe and nourished. And so things like yoga, Pilates, stretching are really, really helpful. They're actually especially helpful to do right before you go to bed. So when we think about trying to get our bodies to have low cortisol, it will really help to do that before you go to bed. So even if before you go to bed, you do like 10 minutes of yoga, 10 minutes of stretching, it can help you decrease your cortisol levels and increase that melatonin. Of course, if you're going to do it before you go to bed, you don't want to be doing like a high intensity yoga or like a hot yoga. You want to do something very calming and relaxing, but feeling nourished in that way and feeling calm and safe will really help decrease your cortisol levels right before you go to bed. So in general, you want to, of course, match your exercise to your patient. So for example, if you have PCOS or you have insulin resistance and your blood sugar tends to be high, that's the kind of body type where you want to make sure you're doing walks after you eat. And then if you have a high testosterone, you want to be doing more cardio. And if you're a low testosterone PCOS, you want to be doing more strength training. If you're kind of like in general, more like a high stress kind of burned out person, you're just really feeling very stressed, you want to do less HIIT, and then you want to increase your low intensity. So you only want to do cardio like once or twice a week, and then you want to mix that in with doing some kind of like yoga, stretching, Pilates, low intensity, and then have a day where you're doing like a strength training. So it's like you have a high, low, medium day and rotate between those things. You don't want to use stress. You don't want to use exercise as a way to just constantly be burning off stress, because you want to make sure that that exercise is not then going on to stress out your body. And then in general, of course, you want to make sure you're nourishing yourself throughout the day and eating before you work out. So signs that your exercise could be hurting your hormones is if you have missed or irregular periods, if you have extreme fatigue, if you're just not sleeping well, if you feel like your metabolism is plateauing or you're gaining weight despite working out, or you just feel really, really anxious throughout the day. Sometimes that can be a sign that the way that we're exercising isn't totally supporting our cortisol, our insulin, and then our reproductive hormones. So if you do nothing else, these are the kind of outline skeleton framework that we want to think of in an ideal way, is that you want to go on a walk every single day. You want to try to lift weights 2 or 3 times a week. You want to do some kind of cardio at least once or twice a week. And then you want to be eating enough protein throughout the day and not having a fasted workout. So we don't want to be doing nothing. If we're in a place where just exercise is not part of your routine, start small. Because if you're not used to working out, you're not going to go to the gym for an hour 5 days a week. It's just totally not going to be practical. So, for example, sometimes Mondays is the only day that I'm able to work out because that's the day that I have off and that's the day that my kids are napping. So Monday afternoon is my workout day. If you're a person that's just not working out regularly, just pick one day a week and then have that be your day. And then on the other days, just go on walks. Like, make it a little habit to go on a walk after dinner or after lunch, and then have your one exercise day. If you're a person who already has an exercise routine, just do a little audit. Make sure you're not working out too hard. Make sure you rotate between like a more intense cardio day, a weight training day, and then a rest and recovery day, so that you're not burning yourself out and working out too hard every single day. And then of course, eat at least 80 grams of protein a day. Make sure you're fueling yourself all day long, and especially fuel before a workout. So you always want your workout to support your hormones, never fight them. You want it to decrease your cortisol level, never make your cortisol higher. And just being consistent and having a balance is more important than being really, really intense and working out really hard or doing something that's just not sustainable. So what makes you happy, what brings you joy is the best form of working out for you. If you're a person that hates gyms, don't go to the gym. Totally not practical for you. If you're a person who loves yoga, amazing. If you want to do cardio, then you can incorporate more high intensity yoga in, and that can be part of your cardio. If you love yoga and you hate running, don't incorporate running into your life, right? Just use yoga to do your cardio and your weights instead. So the most important thing is of course, that we have balance and that what you're doing is making you happy, bringing you joy, and most importantly is practical, because we don't want to be ping-ponging back and forth between, okay, I'm working out and then I fell off the train. Okay, I'm working out and then I fell off the train. You just want it to be something that you can do day in, day out, that's practical, and that brings you joy. So this is something that you just want to incorporate into your life and think of it as something that you do long term. And if you're wondering what your hormones are, just make sure you get your hormones checked at least twice in your cycle. Usually you want to check them on cycle day 3 and then 7 days after you ovulate, so you know where your hormones are so that you can exercise to your hormone profile. On top of that, it does help to get your blood sugar checked, your fasting insulin, and your cortisol levels checked, so you can exercise in a way that optimizes all of those 3 things, and most importantly, it makes you feel amazing every single day and brings you joy. If you're wondering what's going on with your body, you want us to check your hormones, make a workout plan for you, don't hesitate to give us a call. We're here at verafertility.com. Please don't give up on your body. Make sure that you feel amazing and that what you're doing as far as exercise is bringing you joy every single day and not stressing you out. Thank you so much for joining us today, and join us on our next episode of the Hormone Café.